hot seat.
You're golden.
Nice.
Whenever you're ready, Chairman Simmons.
So call us meeting to order. Pledge of allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Set to start with the Waldo.
Yeah, and then I would go to Marcus.
Yep.
In case anybody has any questions.
Yep. Well, I guess we have the Waldo Theater up first.
Hello, Kate.
Evening.
Kate Fletcher. It's good to be back. It's been a long time since I was here.
Did you want to come up to the podium?
Oh, all right.
Yes. Get up.
And I will really, Mike, just so everybody at home and on the recording can. There you go, John. You're on.
Again, it's good to be back. Thank you all for having me at the meeting, having the Waldo here. We're all very grateful for your support of the project over the theater, and we're excited to be going into our first full year of in-person programming, which is really exciting. And so I had this year, heading into this year, and making a request to the town, thinking about 2023, as you all would have received is an increase, a request for an increase from the $5,000 level where we've generously been to a level of $8,000 beginning in 2023. In next year, our hope is to be increasing, along with programming, our staffing and the various things that we need to increase to be able to build a Waldo up to where we all would like to see it on a regular basis. We've been working, our finance committee has been working on pro forma budget projection that takes us through 2025. And so as we're looking in every area of increases in terms of overall contributions, grants coming in from foundations, obviously ticket revenue, and concessions, as we eventually this summer we'll be able to finally sell concessions without masks on. That in addition to all of the increases over time, it just made sense to have an increase in our request to the town beginning in 2023. We are keeping that request then level through 2025 at this point in time, but I wanted to make that request.
Select board, any questions?
I just want to fully disclose that I will work with the finance committee.
Anybody else on the select board?
Well, I noticed that this came in very late.
That's my not knowing what the proper procedure was. So when we received the check in December, I had written a thank you letter in December, and I didn't understand that at that point in time is when I should have made the request for 2023. So I apologize for that. So Julie's clarified that for me, and so going forward, now I know what the procedure should be. So I apologize for that. And I do want to add, with our increased programming, so we have, as you probably all know, we had our first live theater production last summer. We're planning two shows this year, and we actually I'm working on with friends on a music theater weekend performance in July. So theater is going to grow. Movies will continue to grow. Our live music events will grow, and all of this will, and then we have our educational program, we've been in the schools, we've been in all of the elementary schools in our RSU 40 school district. From October to February, we were in the Miller School and the Warren Community School. And now, as of what day is it? As this past Tuesday was our third day in the Friendship and Washington Union elementary schools. And then in the fall, we'll continue some of that, but we're going to be bringing in, we're starting a back to school program at the Waldo. So those are the kinds of programs that are going to grow too. The Fiddle Fest that we had last fall was bringing people in from all over. People were coming from 3 hours away to Fiddle Fest and spending the day in Waldoboro and going to Moody's and we had a great event up at Odd Wise and bringing folks into town. So as we grow and we can continue to work on events like that, we hope to have an economic impact on the town that will grow as well. So I just want to
Colonel?
Just a quick question on, did you say this would be a 1,000 increase this year in 2023?
No.
it would actually be a 3,000.
3,000.
And then we're not projecting to increase that again, and we would hold at that level through 2025.
So the request is for 8,000?
Came in after the fact, the request. Have you asked any of the other towns? That's great that you're going into the schools, the district-wide. Have you asked for any kind of donation or help from any of those other towns?
Great question. When we conclude this year of in-school programming is when, because right now we're self-funding all of that through grants that we've gotten. A little bit of our operating resources, and then 3 grants that we've gotten from foundations has funded all that. And I will be, once we can show, we're surveying sending out a survey to parents and teachers, and we can get some concrete feedback. I want to go back to the RSU 40 school district and speak with them about helping to fund. And yes, that'll be a perfect time to be able to go to the individual towns and ask them to show them what we've done and show them what it's meant to the families and the students. So, and at that point,
Yeah, you're absolutely right. That fiddle event brought people from, there's a real fiddle community in Maine,
oh yes.
and they do follow it. I went to a couple of the events. and
I
they
saw
were
you
really-
at the youth fiddlers over
Yeah,
at the
I went to
church. on
that and
Broadway.
Odd Wise also.
Oh, great, good.
Yeah,
Very
it was packed and it was really
great thing.
Budget committee get anything?
Did you say something about this, what the theater was basically dead? The last few years, you and the rest of the board and certain volunteers have worked really hard to bring it back to the institution that is contributing to the community again. You just give us a little overview of what's been involved in resurrecting the theater.
Oh, sure. So I was actually, thank you. I was involved with the Waldo myself as a volunteer theater parent, probably back starting in 2008. And so my knowledge of the Waldo had been very much about the theater and live performance. And it was a really, quite a center point for the community and a place to gather. And the last production, I worked at a production there in 2013. I directed a play there. And that's when I saw, for those of you who weren't in the building when it was closed, I really saw the damage that the water damage primarily that had been done, and that there just wasn't enough. There were funds to put on a production, a children's production or a musical, but there weren't enough funds invested in the building to sustain it. And friends would come in on the weekends and try to patch it, and it was never going to do the trick. So in 2014, the board that was operating the venue at the time just couldn't support it anymore and walked away, and it was closed. And then locally, Janet McMahon, who many of you probably know, and she started talking with Barbara Boardman and some others, and they came together to form a new board in 2017 to try to resuscitate it, to try to bring it back, because everyone really missed having that center to bring folks together. And so 2017, they started fundraising. They were able to get a grant to replace the roof in 2018. And actually, it was really interesting. We always thought we knew it was the roof. We knew the roof was bad, but it turns out that it was not only just the roof, it was the roof, but also as you're looking at the building on the right-hand side, the foundation on that side of the building was just seeping water coming through the bricks because of the relationship of the building and the roof to the river. And so, so that I think in fall, I came on board in 2019 at the fall of 2019. And that whole section next to the building was dug up and waterproofed, and that filled back in. So now, and then for the next 6 months, whenever it poured rain, and like we're into the theater and wonder if everything was fine. But so it's watertight. It's good. And then we headed into 2020, and we were fundraising and getting ready to do some offsite events. And the first one was going to be in March at the high school, and we had to cancel it because there was a pandemic. And so, but at that time, at this February of 2020, we had been able to get a line of credit. We knew that we needed some funds to keep coming in as we were fundraising in order to keep up the work, to keep pushing forward, and to purchase, you'd be sorry you asked me this question, but to keep pushing forward and to get the technology in the building. There was no technology. There was an old audio system, but we had no projection, no working audio. And so we had to work on that. So then we luckily had that line of credit February, March of 2020, and we could push through that summer, order the parts we needed before parts became hard to find, and get that installed. And so at the same time, we also received an anonymous challenge grant to raise $157,000 in order to receive 43 at that by the end, and it ended up being by the end of the year. And so we went ahead with fundraising, and people really responded. People here in Waldoboro, people who have seasonal homes here who couldn't get to Waldoboro for that whole year, were sending in funds to support, and they just saw everything we were doing as being hopeful for the future. And that, you know, whatever we were all dealing with privately with the pandemic, that if we kept pushing forward on this theater, that it would reopen again, and we would all be able to gather again one day. And so we met that goal, which was really crucial. And we started, as we were wiring for all this technology in the spring and summer of 2020, I asked the fellows who were working on the building, the contractors, to go ahead and run wiring for live streaming just in case. By August of 2020, I looked at my board of directors and they said, just in case is here now. So if we want to connect with our community and we want to support the performing artists whose livelihoods had gone down, really the performing arts industry was on its knees by the fall of 2020. And so we wanted to be able to support artists and give them a place to perform. And so we started live streaming in November of 2020. And that had a huge response. We had the first two concerts, we had people tuning in from 35 states to watch our concerts. And we continued that through the winter of 2021. And then we got into a place with auditions for a play, brought that in June. And by June 2021, luckily the governor had lifted a lot of restrictions. So we could go from having 45 people in the theater to having larger audiences. And from there, we just keep going. So actually, I have some invitations in my pocket for you. We're having an open house a week from Saturday for all of the donors and all of the volunteers, like your entire family, who have touched this project. And the volunteers, we have this great list that Barbara Boardman has been working on how it will be presented in the lobby, but we have over 250 volunteers. So, you know, we have over 500 donors, but there's over 250 people who have touched this project. And it's really, really remarkable. So we wouldn't be here, I wouldn't be here, the theater wouldn't be here without them. So just in terms of community impact, community involvement, it's been quite remarkable. Yes.
Do you have fiber optic cable?
Fiber optic cable. We have what we use is we have LCIs coming into the building for live streaming. That's what we use. Yeah.
Okay.
Can I say something? Is it question time or no?
Absolutely.
Has any special mention been made of Jim Derby? It seemed to me that he went far and above, was involved in every facet of repair ideas. And I wonder if he's been honored.
That's a great question. I mean, Jim is definitely recognized by all of us, included in the recognition. But it would be great at some point to have a special moment for some special recognition like that. You know, we started planning this open house, still not knowing about, you know, could we have refreshments? Can we have masks? But it would, but we wanted to do something because a lot of people, volunteers and donors, haven't actually gotten to be in the building yet. But eventually, there are people like Jim and some others who it would be great to be able to do something more formal for.
His skill set was so special. He knows so much about building that I don't see how you could have gotten as far as you did without him.
Very
That's
true.
just my opinion, but
It's very, very true, and he takes good care of it. I can always text Jim and he'll be over to help.
okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else got any questions? Bob?
Just clarification, your fiscal year runs from January through the end of December.
That's correct.
Thank you.
Bill?
Are you gonna be totally upset if you didn't get the 8, you got the same 5 from last year? And the reason I ask that, due to the COVID situation back in 2020, we had to cut some other people, and to try to get them back up to par this year, it's gonna be about $3,000 or $4,000. So if we didn't give you the extra 3, we can get everybody else back to where they were before COVID hit.
Mhm.
So what is gonna be the theater's response if you only got 5?
We will be very grateful for 5. And as I said, we're looking to, as we're trying to grow everything that we're doing, we wanted to ask. And so I would hope that then we have that consideration for 2024.
Thank you.
Well,
I think, given the value of the theater in the community, the work that so many people have done and so many contributions. support the theater, more than $5,000.
Seth? No, the select board has to first.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Is there any more questions? What's the board's pleasure? Would somebody like to make a motion?
So typically you vote on community services.
Oh,
as a
okay,
whole.
sorry. I forgot about that. Okay, I guess you are all set.
There's more sticky wickets. than
Yeah,
this.
oh yeah.
There's more sticky
Frickin-
wickets.
The warden over here. Her new nickname's the warden.
The warden apparently.
You might already have these. Thank you.
Thank you for coming. Kate. It's nice to see you.
Thank you. It's good to see you. It's really fun to be back. You got one.
We got a couple more community service things here as well that.
Do we want to just, if Marcus, anybody have
Okay.
questions for Marcus since he wasn't here at the last
Yep,
meeting?
sure.
He was a wounded soldier.
All right, so, yeah, we got Marcus.
He was a
Bob?
wounded player.
Can I ask Bill a question?
Yes, Bob, I'm up.
You expressed a concern about bringing other organizations back up to previous levels.
That's right.
Which organizations in this class, other than Lincoln County?
Well, first of all, LCTV, you take them from 12 back down to 9, because I don't agree with giving them 12,000. And let's get the Waldeboro Day Committee and Oktoberfest back at 1,000 each, because you don't know, somebody could come to Julie tomorrow and say, I want to have Waldeboro Day.
Well, I
Is
can
it-
speak from my own experience, the Oktoberfest is just fine. I don't think they want the money we gave to them because they got money in the kitty. I don't know about Waldeboro.
Waldeboro Day, we've already paid for everything we need to. so
And
we
that's
can
what I was
carry
thinking,
on.
is it's probably carried over from the previous year.
I do have something to say about Walboro. I met with Caitlin. She was the kind of the head of that committee pre-COVID. And we are going to have a meeting next Monday night and try to see what we can get together. I know we normally plan all year for it. So just planning through the spring, it might not be as big as it normally is, but we thought it would be.
The fireworks are paid
The
for.
fireworks are paid for. I know
So all that stuff's already in the
We've been
budget.
carrying that.
We've a few years now.
Sandy?
So in community services, I'll have to agree that I don't think we should add any more to LCDC. The Lee County, they're getting 150 from every game they do with Irish Youth Party. They get paid from the youth academy. I do think we should go up to $8,000 for the theater because it's local. It's within, and it's not like they're getting support for everything.
But you recommended going back to 9,000, Bill, from
Right,
12.
right.
Give them another
I was
two.
gonna say 7.
Right, no, I'm all for LCTV, $9,000. If you want to do the math, Abden.
Yep, yep.
Memorial Day Committee, 1,000. Oktoberfest, 1,000. Bob, quiet. Waldeboro Day Committee, 1,000. Public Library, 7,500. Snow crawlers.
No, wait,
No,
75,000.
75,000.
I was gonna say, I was a
I
big,
fought for
that was a big, that was a
Remember,
big,
I fought
that was
for
a big, that was a big decrease, dear.
75,604, theater 5,000, historical 5,000. I think there's plenty of other groups that are out there, and I'm not trying to be biased, but do probably just as much and have been trying to remain financially responsible and kept the same amount of money.
Now, Oktoberfest, you said is all set, Bob, you
Yes.
think? The Waldeboro Day, we've carried the money over.
We've carried, but if
So
you want
that
to
doesn't
move
need it
that, if
this
you wanted
year.
to move that Oktoberfest to the Waldeboro Day Fund, that might be a nice thing to do, so that next year we could have a bigger,
A
Head
bigger,
start. I know.
Have a
I know
head
that was,
start.
Just what I.
because everything's gonna go up.
Eileen
Mhm.
carried the finances, but I remember every year it was like, we have enough, this much for fireworks, and then that was it, and the next year we had to build it up again, like it was.
It's more than fireworks, so they
Yeah.
spend a lot of time getting fundraising through the community.
Yeah, yeah,
It's-
Right.
they-
Karen
they
sends out
get
letters
lots
and
of-
they get sponsorships.
They got
There's a
lots of
lot.
sponsorships,
I
lots
just,
of
I don't
money
know
from
what's
the
gonna
community.
happen this year. Like I said,
Mhm.
Caitlin's super busy. She didn't want to do it. And I
Yeah.
kind of, I was like, at least call a meeting. You know, if we can get 4 or 5 people in there that are willing to take on 1 or 2 things, you know, maybe we don't get the whole shebang, but if we can get a parade, some kids events and, you know, fireworks or whatever, it's something, it's more than we had last year and it's a kickstart to get back to normal.
okay. Oh,
Bill has his
oh,
hand.
sorry, Bill.
And I just have a comment. I have a hard time when community service agencies have paid employees and they ask for a lot of money, and you have 100% volunteer community services that come in pretty much level every year. That's just an editorial. And nothing against the library, trust me, because I fought for Kat last year to get her back to her total amount after we had, excuse me, 2 meetings. So I just like to be fair across the board for everybody, not just 1 or 2.
Okay.
And like Jan says, that letter was like, and Julie was good enough to put the budget together.
Yeah, I think in the past, we have not accepted any payment.
Well, I
After
thought the
December.
thank you letter was a thank you and that they were
Yeah.
happy with the same amount. I didn't realize that that wasn't their request.
Bob?
Yeah, I wanted to comment a bit on LCTV. I would agree with Sandy. I didn't get answers to the questions that I asked when Larry was here, that I felt hung together. The advertising question, for example, that you picked up on as well. How much of that activity they provide to the school is covered by, say, that? And seemed to indicate that it was coming.
Yeah.
And one of his major arguments for increasing the funding was to pay for the effort they put into filming those events, paid for by the school through advertising. Just seemed to be to justify increasing the budget by 5,000.
Right.
I argue for 7,000 for Lincoln County Television, leaving it where it is.
I'm kind of with Bill was the 9,000 be just because
I
I see the numbers in there and we dominate their Airstream, you know. That's the only reason I would agree with Bill is that we just dominate it. I mean, they've really, we've asked, just my opinion, we've asked them to, we've cut them back because they wasn't doing anything for us. And every year they do more and more and more. So I just hate to punish them for not, you know, they stepped up to the plate and not give them something, you know, to encourage them to keep going. Just my opinion. I'll do Val first.
I was under the impression that the whole point of the increase was to cover the school. That's why. Right. Yeah, I didn't get that impression. I thought you wanted to stop charging the schools.
No, I think they'll still get.
No, I understood it
I
as
thought he
to
wanted
help cover the
take
schools.
Funding away, not charging schools, so that it would not be, he put it as not being taxpayer dollars from the school budget. And go from the towns, it would be the franchise fees, which would be tax dollars, but they're going to the general, so effectively his tax dollars.
Right. Yep.
I didn't. So I guess, I think they're doing a lot now.
Yep.
I don't have a TV show, I don't watch it. They do seem to be working really hard to do a good job.
I'll just comment
So I
that,
think the 9,000 is a good compliment.
I'll just comment that, you know, it isn't only that the schools that they're providing coverage on.
Right.
There's, you know, there's a lot going on.
Mhm.
They've been busy. And I think where most of that money's gonna go is in equipment and people, you know, like editors. They only have 2 editors to do all that. And if they lose one of them, they're dead. And they're growing. You know, they started from nothing. Well, they had LCTV before, but it was struggling.
Yep. Is there any other comments? Sandy?
I feel the 7,000 sufficient because they're only charging RSU 40 from Lincoln. They're doing Wisconsin, they're doing Edgecombe, they're doing Jefferson, and they're not charging them at all. He said they need to do that, but they said that last year.
Bill?
I'm just trying to be fair before
Me
COVID,
too.
before COVID hit. And that's all, that's my point. Get back to where everybody was prior to COVID.
Which was
It's not
9,000.
increasing, it's not giving them more, it's getting them back to where they were.
And they were 9,000.
And they were at 9,000. And Waldeboro Day was at 1,000 and Oktoberfest, if you're gonna tie those 2 together, that's fine. That's $2,000.
Is there any more comments?
I think 9,000 is, that's giving them something.
Getting them back to where they were. I mean, we can't deny that,
Oh,
you know, we cut.
whacked them.
Well, 5,000 is a large, that's a.
I think we
It's a
looked at
hefty
the
increase.
highest we'd given them is like 11.5 or 12.5.
13.6.
13.6 is the
Mhm.
most we've ever given them.
That was the year before.
So we have knocked them down a long ways from what we used to give them.
Because I think Peg helped me go through and over like a 10-year span, we gave them over $100,000.
Yeah.
I told Larry it wasn't 75 cents worth of.
Seth?
So Waldo Theater is looking for a $3,000 increase.
Correct.
Support the Waldo Theater. This is not expenses this year that we don't have control over. I wouldn't be opposed to giving them $6,500. So that it on the
Yep,
table for
yep.
discussion.
there anything else? All right, so do we wanna,
Somebody's got to make a motion on the
Alright.
select board.
yep. So we gotta have a new number though.
I think Bob's got a hand
Can
up.
I make a motion even though I'll be abstaining on the vote?
Yep.
Okay. Just want to make it appropriate.
Yep, yep.
So the motion would be, and I'll delineate what I feel might be a fair. The motion is 9,000 for Lincoln County Television. 1,000 for Memorial Day. Committee. 75,000 for the library. $604 for the snow crawlers. 6,500 for the Walden. 5,000 for the Historical Society. Whatever that adds up to. Move on for the community.
What about Waldeboro?
Well, I'm told that they have carryover, so.
That's for fireworks, I think, only.
Is it?
It's just the
All
fireworks.
right,
That's
then
not
I
for
would add
the.
$1,000
anything
for
else.
Waldeboro.
Oh, okay,
as well.
I understood.
Bob, could you repeat your numbers again, please?
Sure. 9,000 for Lincoln County TV. 1,000 for Memorial Day. 75,000 for the library. $604 for snow callers. Sorry.
Yep.
1,000 for Waldeboro Day. 604 for the snow crawlers, 6,500 for the Waldo, and 5,000 for the Historical Society.
What's that give us for a total?
Peg's giving
Hang on. 98,104.
So that's still below what we
That's below
what we actually budgeted, so.
Yeah.
So. Is
So
there a,
if you want to give that extra $500 to Waldeboro Day,
And increase them to 1,500.
yeah,
that's up to you, Bob. That's your motion.
Yeah, I just. Can I ask you what the rationale is for that?
because their carryover will handle the fireworks this year, but,
And then they'll have a little extra to work with.
and they'll have next year, they'll have an extra $500 to work.
That makes sense.
Is that what you want to do, Bob?
So I would recommend 1,500 for Waldeboro Day, even though that's above and beyond what we've given them recently.
But that, then it
It will make
stays
it
at
a little- Yeah, it'll
98,604.
make it a little more special, because it's been a while since we've had it.
Be a little longer firework display.
I'll second
You gonna second that? Is there any more discussion?
Sounds reasonable.
I have to abstain.
And
Yeah,
so
both.
two of us.
Yep. All those in favor? 302. Budget Committee.
Okay, we have to call ourselves to order.
You said the.
We did.
Pledge of Allegiance. Oh, myself.
I did at the beginning.
Okay. We have a figure by the selectmen of $98,604 for community services.
Make a motion. Accept that.
Second?
Also.
Okay.
Uh-oh, the budgets are ganging up.
Do we have any discussion? Really?
I'd like to amend the amount to 95,604 and based on my previous explanation, 9,000 LCTV, 1,000 to Memorial Day. And maybe it don't come out to that.
Which specific figure were you? gonna change?
Well, I took away the 3 that the theater was asking, but it's actually gonna be.
It's gonna be the same. It's gonna be the exact same numbers that originally would be. 98,604.
If you are agreeing with the select board.
No, I'm not agreeing with select board.
Well, that's what I thought. So that's,
Thank you, Julie.
that's what I
You're right on
thought.
top of it.
I was trying.
Julie, write these numbers down.
I'm writing these numbers down,
9,000 for LCTV,
right?
1,000 Memorial Day. 2,000 for Waldeboro Day / Oktoberfest,
Mhm.
75,000 for Public Library. 604 5,000 theater, 5,000 historical society.
Okay, and I will total those up.
which is $500 less.
Right.
98,104.
98,104, okay.
98.
Now you have to have a motion for you, a second for yours, Bill.
I know, it won't.
Sorry,
Without
sorry,
that-
Val.
Yeah, is there a second for the amendment? Any other, discussion? I had a question about the Waldeboro Day. Going to 1,500, 500 bucks is a lot, but
So every year they put together the day, and a good portion of that money, to my knowledge, has went towards the fireworks. So we have fireworks already paid for this year, but next year
That this year is June.
is June 2022, so we'll need
everything
something
you're
for
voting on
next
is
year.
Next year.
So if the,
So if we use the fireworks this year, we don't have anything in the
Right.
budget. for next
and
year.
then given how everything else has went up, the extra 500 would be nice.
does the fireworks cost $1,000?
1,500 in 2017.
So they had donations.
Yeah, and we set, it-
Printing shirts and
Big
just-
money.
I'm just looking at an old
Yeah.
ledger.
I
I
wasn't
mean,
in
we
charge of
might be able
finances, but I know we
to
sent
get-
out sponsorship letters to a lot of places, businesses and stuff to try to cover, like, I'm pretty sure the committee broke even after the sponsorships and what the town gave. By the fireworks and all the other stuff we had to pay for. And we try to get vendors in and we charge them, I think it's like $25 for a spot for the day. It's always been tight. To my knowledge.
I mean,
Like I
last
said, I
year,
wasn't in charge.
there was a fireworks display on North Nobleboro Road that I attended.
There will
And,
be another one this year.
and it was a very good event, and it was in Nobleboro though.
That's correct.
But I was just curious, we might be able to get those same firework experts perhaps to donate their services to Waldeboro Day.
2017, their budget was $4,990, $4,900, just for all of the things that they needed to buy. And a lot of it came in through funding, but I think it was also helpful to have for the town.
Sure, yeah. Okay. Just as a comment on the theater, I don't think it would be a bad thing to do to support them. What they support. With the select board. No, we don't have to agree with them. I think it's nice on the warrant. but, recommend. So any other discussion? Ready to vote? And this is for.
Did you have a second?
Yes,
Yeah. The budget's gang,
So we're back to,
Clarify what the amount is.
I believe it's 98,604.
This, the original amount, it just broke it up,
Change, just
Just divvied it up different ways.
reallocated it.
So all those in favor, 98,604 for.
Aye.
Aye.
Oh, I'm not voting. Sorry, I have to change. So we got 1, 2, 3,
Aye.
4.
Aye.
I got you two guys remote there. And we have 2 more here. All those opposed? 1, 2, 3 opposed. 3, 4, 3,
One abstain.
0, 1, right?
Yep. Nope, makes 8.
One absent.
Yep.
And 1 absent.
All right.
Okay.
Cool. Now we'll move on to Marcus, which is our Rec director, step right up, young fella.
Well, last week you already approved his budget, but he thought you guys might have questions for him, so he thought he would show his.
I was told to show up tonight.
Right.
You guys did it early.
Spill your guts.
Billy,
Can you find me an HC Ralph Laurie shirt?
I will work on that.
I'm good then.
What was that, Billy?
We're doing a program for HC Ralph this year, and I told Marcus to try to find an old Little League shirt that Ralph used to sponsor.
I don't think we have any in storage, but I might be able to call in some friends that played on the Bears back in the day.
How long ago was that? I still don't have mine. Yeah,
Years ago.
I played on the Bears.
Just curious, this is the first year that you came back full time, right?
This past year.
What did you be able to do different being full time?
Being full-time, so I got a whole list of programs, but starting in the July 1st, so it's the summer, my summer camp not only returned, but returned to a whole day, or we had a whole day camp, which was the first time we'd ever had that. It was always 9 to 1.
You call summer kids, we just call it Walmart rec.
Yeah,
Rec camp,
yeah, summer rec camp,
Yep.
whatever you want to call it. I think even before there was a rec department, there was that summer camp. I think the phys ed teacher used to run it, to my knowledge. And it used to be free, and they had a bunch of kids. And then Kyle had it. I think it was pretty cheap, but it was only 9 to 1. He had strong numbers for a while. They started to dwindle. By the time I took over, we had really low numbers. And I think it was just the parents were working and couldn't get their kids there or pick them up at 1 in the afternoon. So my plan in 2020, whatever that year was to go full-time for that camp. COVID hit. I ended up at Public Works and town clerking for a while. And so when we came back this past year, we had a full camp. We had a lot more kids, about 3 times as many kids as we had the last year we'd run it. And had a great year. I mean, I only expected to get bigger this year. So that was the summer. Discount tickets came back but that was just because the parks opened. I did run co-ed softball through the part-time, but youth soccer got knocked down a lot. We didn't get a full season in during COVID, but we had a full season last year, back to playing with all the other towns and all that. The senior bus trip came back. We didn't have that before. Came back, we went to Bar Harbor last year. Had a great trip there, beautiful weather. And then in the winter was when stuff really got shut down before, because everything was inside. And so this past year we had K2 basketball just wrapped up. We brought that back after, I think, 1 or 2 years missing, and had a good group there. We had to juggle around gyms. We couldn't get into Miller School like normal because they have the desks set up every 6 feet apart for lunch. They wouldn't take them down so we could play basketball and then put them back. So we went to the middle school, but then the middle school got shut down with their water issue. So we ended up finishing K2 in Warren because they were the only other school in the district that had hoops that would come down low enough for the kids. But we had a good group, finished that up. Brought back the Christmas light decoration contest. Ski Club came back. We partnered with the Waldo for a couple of Christmas movie nights. They gave us a 4-pack of tickets to raffle off. In return, we kind of advertised for them, and they had a great night. The ice rink came back, and plan, like I said, I was talking to Jan before, but that went really well compared to years past. When we were at 80 Gray, I didn't have water access, so once the fire department came and filled it, that's kind of what I had to work with. I could shovel it off, but I couldn't really clean the ice. So it got unskateable real quick when it was at 80 Gray. Out back here, having the fire hose to not only fill it myself, but the garden hose, I could clean it, and it made it a lot smoother, a lot safer for the kids. We tried something different with some lower sides, and that it was supposed to be so that we could get the snow off easier, which it definitely did, but it ran into some other problems with thin ice and tearing the liner a little bit. So that's why the liner's in there again for next year. We're gonna go back to the boards that are taller. Be a little bit harder to get the snow off, but hopefully we'll keep the liner intact, and with the water access here still, we can keep it clean and skatable. So that came back. And one of the big ones is pickleball came back. Every Tuesday, Thursday from 9 to 11, we play up at the church. 9 to 11 in the morning. We had kind of a smaller group through the fall, but since the start of the new year, our numbers have really grown. We went from having basically one court play-in to we have 2 or 3 courts almost every day now of people coming, and it's all different people. Like we had 2 courts going today, and I know I have 3 or 4 people that are out of state and won't be back for a few weeks. So when they come back, there's another court. It's been great to see that come back to almost more than it was pre-COVID. And then plans for the spring, Little League's coming back. We had a Little League season last year. I know that's not a town program, but I do a ton. I'm on their board and they use our fields. I do all the field maintenance on almost all the fields.
You do their scheduling?
I do their scheduling, take registrations. I'm the treasurer. So it's, Little League is a lot of work. With Little League International from Williamsport, they have a lot of rules and you have to follow them even here in Little Old Waldeboro. And it makes, I don't know how they must have had a lot of great volunteers back in the day when we didn't have a rec department, because I don't see how it would even run without some of us. And we have some great volunteers now. Don't get me wrong. Heather Simmons in Friendship, she's basically the vice president secretary, and it's her youngest is 12, so he's aging out next year, and it's gonna be rough without her because she does a lot. And then pitch hit and runs coming back this year. That's a great program. It's the kids show up to a day. We have they have different pitching competition, a hitting competition, and a running competition. And it's a free program for the kids. It's put on by Major League Baseball. And if they win our Waldeboro town, we had kids from the area. It's not just Waldeboro. Kids from the area can come, but our Waldeboro we're the only one that hosts it in the area. The winners from ours go to the state competition. And then the winners from the state competition go to Fenway for the regional competition. And then the winners from the regional competition go to it used to be the All-Star game. Now it's the World Series, and they compete at the World Series for the national competition. And so we actually had 3 years ago, we had a 7-year-old girl finished second at Fenway. So she got to go down to Fenway and compete on, play on the field. And I know we've had other kids from the area in the past go. That's the one that's made it since I've been here. But it's a free opportunity for the kids to come out, test their skills against others, and have a chance to go somewhere. Like, how cool is that a little girl from Waldeboro got to go play at Fenway Park? Like, I'm a baseball fan, so I would do anything to play at Fenway Park. I've been running pickup basketball the last couple of weeks. Will came to me and said, "Hey, let's do pickup basketball." So I always used to do it at Miller, couldn't do it at Miller. So the church has been gracious enough to let us play on Tuesday nights. So the first week we had just 7, but this week we had 14. And I've already heard from a couple other guys that are coming, so I expect to have even more this week. It's another just stuff that doesn't happen if I'm part-time. When I was part-time, it was the bigger programs, the little stuff that gets people out and active more regularly didn't happen. To kind of go back and answer your question as I go through. And then hoping to get Waldeboro Day back up and going. I was never in charge of that. I always helped, but I think it's important we bring it back. It's a great event. So that's kind of the run through of my programs.
One question, the summer rec, you have
Yep.
counselors that.
Yep.
They're paid, are they paid?
Yeah, I have a full staff, so they're
Are they
paid.
paid in your budget?
No, they're paid solely through registrations.
Okay.
And so
So they're supported by
they're supported
the
by the
program.
Yeah. And so that, as that program in the past didn't always come out in the black. And it's not the goal with my other programs that make more money. My enterprise account I usually broke even or made a little bit of money every year. But actually moving it to a whole day from the 9 to 1, it was a lot closer to breaking even and paying for it. And if I get
if I get more kids like I hope to this year, that program will break even and completely cover itself.
Do you have problems getting counselors?
I did last year, but it didn't matter because I didn't quite get the kids. I was hoping for 45 kids. I ended up with 30. And so instead of needing 8 or 9 counselors, I only needed the 5. And then I covered as much as I could to help with that. So yeah, I have, so far I've contacted my staff of 5 from last year. I have 2, maybe 3 coming back. 2 that I know are not coming back. And then I actually have a lady from 2 years ago that wanted to return as well. So I know I've got some coming in, and I've got a call out or an email out to the high school, trying to get some more high school kids to come in and be counselors. It's open to anybody, you know. High school kids are my general audience for that, but if there's adult or teachers that have the summer off that want to work, I'll take them. Because I'm hoping to get up, if I get up to the 45 kids, I'll need more. So,
And the school supports you with transportation, or you have to get buses?
no, there's no transportation.
How do you get on to go to the lake?
Oh, yeah. So for field trips, the school doesn't support us. They get us the buses. It was kind of a learning process last year. But basically how it ended up working out was that Ernie, who's the transportation director up there, he found me two bus drivers. They worked well together. You know, they knew who was coming and who wasn't. And they came, they took us everywhere we needed to go all summer. And then we had a set price for their salary at, you know, hourly wage plus mileage. And Ernie sent us an invoice at the end of the summer and we paid it. That all came out of the registrations as well.
Oh,
2 questions. There's a line item called land maintenance.
Yeah.
Is that something that you're taking care of or something you contract out? Because you said you take care of the baseball fields.
I do. Yeah, I do. I do take that's not for labor. It's for materials.
Okay.
Yeah. So most of all my materials come through sports fields. They're pretty much the only contracted business in the state that handles the stuff. I know. I listened to your meeting last time. Julie talked about the turfus. The turfus went up. That's it's almost like a kitty littery gravel type stuff that we lay on the fields. It makes a softer surface for not only the kids to slide on when they're sliding into bases, but it gives the ball a better true bounce, so less broken teeth.
Learn something every day.
Yeah, so it's great stuff, and it helps absorb water a little bit, which helps. It has a wicking across the top, keeps the water off. So yeah, I think that line changed. Yeah, I think it went down $15, but that was the turfus went up, and I think I got a couple extra bags of grass seed because I had. I got the plans I have for that are to kind of fix the backstop, and I know we're going to tear it up a little bit. I'm going to need to do the back, put some grass seed back down. But I have some spring fertilizer left over, so I took that out, and so it was almost a wash.
well,
If I may.
Yeah.
Do you coordinate at all with the community navigator to reach kids that perhaps could benefit a bit more
Yes.
from your program?
Yep. Yeah, she comes to me with, of any, I can't say who, but any kids that, you know, that are kind of in between and need a place to go, and we figure something out. We had one last year in particular that she had been working with, and she's like, hey, what can we do? I was like, let's get them into camp, and we can set them up with a scholarship if we need be. And it ended up that things kind of worked out, and I told her she had a scholarship, and she ended up paying anyways because she wanted to. But yeah, I've worked with her quite a bit, and I'm working with her now because she has contacts in the school about getting kids for staff. So yeah, she's been super valuable.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Sandy?
I want to let you know that on the 19th at the Big Coast Athletic Center, I'm going to the Lions. I'm doing the free vision tests for the kids during school vacation. So, and what we do is when they come in, we do the vision test. If there's an issue, we print it out, we bring it to the eye doctor. The Lions sponsor glasses and stuff. So I don't know if that's something you want to put out there.
Yep, I can.
I'll be there from 10 to 1.
Yep, if I can get, I can reach out to Richie or somebody. If I can get an ad for that, I can share it on our Facebook page and get it out to our parents that might want to get their kids over there. I know they've been doing a lot.
I'll share your post.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess I'm there from 10 to 1. If I have to stay later, I don't mind doing that.
Awesome.
Is there any more questions?
Everyone's all happy? Okay, I guess you're all set.
All right, thank you all.
If you were here, I might as well make you talk. All right, all right. I get a note saying we should
We should go to capital first.
go to capital first before financing. So,
So that would be in one of your sections. It says capital reserve. It's in the orange. It has the big fold out capital page. That's printed on 11 by 17 paper. Per Val's request, I made sure that the large capital
so
plan,
that's your fault, Val?
that one right there is Val's.
Monstrosity.
Val's monstrosity. And I just want to say a little bit about that. I went over it today with Val. There's a couple of things that obviously, and what makes this year and probably next year a little bit tougher to get our heads around is, for example, I found out today, speaking with Derek Booker, what the cost of a new ambulance might look like, and we don't have that planned until next year. And part of his suggestion might be just because of the cost increase, because obviously I wasn't planning on huge increases of $40,000 for ambulances back when we did that, but maybe buy the chassis this year with what's in reserve and then budget for the box next year. So we're getting good feedback, but
So we're not gonna bond that?
well, we could, and it depends, and I had this conversation. We decided that we were going to try to borrow for the larger things, depending what interest rates do. I think that would depend what we do. I think we have to really, especially in this next year or two, really seriously look at how we're going to handle those things. So
Because I thought we discussed that.
we had discussed that.
Yeah.
And again, that was when interest rates were favorable for the borrower. I'm not sure what they're going to do, so I'm just leaving that open. But I thought it was a really good suggestion about maybe looking at it as buy the chassis, because not only is the price going to go up, but they're waiting 18 months for a chassis.
How much is the chassis?
He's going to find all of that out. So again, it was one of those things. Guess where I was today? And he was up past Augusta at AEV, and I think it's AEV, or yeah, I think that's what it is. But anyway, but they're 18 months out on their chassis, and that's just about on anything you want to look at. So,
And we get a fire truck coming up, correct?
well, you've got, so we'll go through, we do, but bear in mind, again, that's Max and I putting in grants to try to get that. So that's why there's money in this year, because we have to have a portion for that. So then that can stay. But the goal is to actually get a fire truck through the federal government. And our years should be coming, because we've been doing it so much and asking. It should be coming.
What about the shellfish truck? We discussed that the other day about possibly trading that in, and it
So
doesn't have a lot of miles on it, does it?
it does not.
You can almost get as much for it as a new one was when we bought it. So that was my thought, is we could get a brand new truck for half the money. Yeah.
So we haven't even, so just so everybody's aware, I haven't even started to look at that yet.
Okay.
But that would be something that we could do, we could look at, but I haven't, I've been a little busy, so I haven't got a chance to do that.
I know I put a lot onto it. So did the rest of us.
But if you go down, you'll see if you look at this sheet and you go all the way over to the third to last column, it's what we're requesting. And the municipal building reserve, we're requesting an additional $20,000. So the money that you see spent under expenditures, that's been spent since 6/30/2021. This next amount that we're trying to save for is for the HVAC in this building. That has to have something done with it.
Is there a grants for that?
So
Isn't
there's
there
a
some-
grant,
oh, sorry.
there are some and there isn't some.
Where's Max when you need him?
Well, because everybody wants to give you a grant to look at something. Everybody would love to give you a grant to do the study. That's what they want to give you the grant for, not to actually do it. And there's a couple of things we have to look at. And one is our HVAC right now has a control system that's proprietary that we can't make work. And I give a lot of credit where credit is due to Ms. Tanya Blodgett, who tries to make everybody comfortable in their own office. It's very difficult. So we really have to look at how we do that. And we have to think about, and heat pumps have been brought up a lot, and I'll tell you why. We burn oil here for the heat in the winter, but this building's on solar.
Geothermal.
So geothermal could be an option too. So we are looking into that, but no matter what we decide, we need to have funding to be able to install whatever we decide to install.
Yep.
And Max did apply for a grant to do a study. There's several providers around that can actually do the study. I think Mr. Blodgett worked for one of them at some point. Who could actually do the study and make a recommendation as to what type of system to install. So that's one. Moving down, you'll see in 2024, we have EMS equipment reserve, and that's 12,000, and that's typically for cardiac monitors and stretchers. The cardiac monitors that we have now, we actually did order some about a year ago, and we are waiting for parts. So the new ones have not come in yet, and they do not make parts for the old ones, but they're waiting to actually put parts in the newly manufactured ones.
That's kind of scary. Isn't it?
Well, we are in much better shape than a lot of other places with that.
Sorry, Julie.
Bob?
On the equipment reserve for EMS, the total looks like it's about 144,000
Yes,
as of the end of January this year.
yes,
So you're gonna add 12,000 to that in this budget
correct.
and bring it up to 156,000 roughly.
Yes.
Okay. Are these categories fixed or is there any fluidity?
There's fluidity in
Okay,
that.
So,
So like if you needed more money, if we wanted to order the chassis for the ambulance, and if you saw on the big chart, so you'll see in 2025, that 175,000, that's where that ambulance is.
Yep.
But what you don't see is the 2026, and we buy an ambulance that next year because we got those 2 years.
and then you're covered.
So then if we buy it, maybe the chassis this year, the box next year, it's going to give us at least 2 years in between
Right.
ambulances. So it kind of makes more sense. But the 12,000 is normally split 4,000 for stretchers, 8,000 for cardiac monitors. And then you'll see we go down to the fire equipment reserve, and we've been putting money in for turnout gear. And in the past, we've been putting in 50,000, I think it was last year, because we had SCBA replacement and truck 3 in kind for amount for assistance grant. And again, that's part of saving for if we do get that grant, being able to fund it, and also the SCBA. We did get the grant from the Stephen and Tabitha King grant, but we can't reapply for that grant for 3 years.
I guess my concern is that looking at a fire truck purchase in 2025, that seems to be what this is telling me.
Well, that's when it's projected.
Right, I get that. So I mean, could the truck we have last longer if we needed it to?
Paul is not on there tonight. I would say yes.
I'm worried we're painting ourselves in the corner a little bit here financially.
Well,
If we can't bond.
so
and if the bonding isn't the right time because interest rates have gone crazy.
that it might not be the right time, but we also have to look at, we have to have some funds in our capital reserve so that when we apply for the federal grant, we can show we've put money aside to help with the purchase.
It's a real tight fire this one. It's gonna be,
It,
I hope
it's,
we get the grant.
so we hope every year we
Hopefully
get the
a
grant.
couple years, maybe if it may take a couple years to get the grant.
Right, and I don't think, I like I said, I don't want to speak for the chief, but I would assume that we would be able to go a few more years, I'm sure. Again, Paul might be watching, he's not, and then he'll cringe that I said that, but
Val?
Julie, I'm looking at the 2024 and 2025 figures. In our book, we've got only 311,000 next year.
For,
The total.
for where? For what year?
For 2024. Says 311,000. And on big sheet, it's 900.
Well, because that was up,
Wheeler.
right, so that's updated. That big sheet was updated after this sheet was given to you.
Okay, so should we look at the numbers on here?
Well, you're
Just for
not,
total?
so
We're not voting on that.
you're not
but
voting
just
on
to
that.
Get a picture of.
So,
Sorry to complicate it.
why
But
you
these-
came this morning, I thought, Val?
Well, I'm just concerned that people might think that 311,000.
So 2024, probably what we're missing is, if you look at the big sheet, it's 929. So you're missing, in 2024, which is not the budget year that we're in, you're looking at $20,000 for municipal building reserve. You're looking at $10,000 for EMA equipment, $12,000 for EMS. Fire goes to $25,000, $58,000 for police. In public works, you're at $254,000. Highway construction's 50. Surface paving is $350. Got $15,000 for sidewalk program. $145,000 for the solar farm purchase, which I'm not sure is included in here.
You'll need a slightly more than that. So where's the ballpark?
And that's what gets you to the 929. So I think that's what wasn't included.
Okay, my general point being that coming in the future, we've got some bigger numbers to look at than what's apparent on these sheets.
Well, those sheets only go out 2 years
Right.
in the
But
budget book.
even in the 2 years, they're significantly different. And that, like Julie and I talked this morning about the cost of trucks and ambulances and whatnot, these projections even are questionable.
Well, right, and that's, I was gonna get to that, is
Yeah.
what I said before. This year and next year are gonna be hard for vehicles, because I can't predict if there's gonna be chips or not chips, how long it's gonna take to get them, and I can't predict interest rates.
So I guess the question is that given the uncertainty, would we be more conservative and try to set more aside to cover us in case the world doesn't turn the way we hope it does? But that means increasing taxes.
So
Well-
again, you're gonna get back to what we had in the past, is, do you want to start saving and save in a large amount and make people who may never see that use of that equipment pay for it?
Valid argument.
Do we stay the course for at least this year and figure out, I mean, we've got to make, John will tell you, because I haven't even gotten to that point yet, was if, and he said it the other night, he heard a $10 per ton increase for asphalt. If that's true, we can handle 10, we can't handle over 10. So then he would stop. He wouldn't pave roads this year. So we have to, each of these things we have to look at and say, what's our best bet? Should we order now so that we get in a holding pattern for a vehicle? The same thing's gonna happen, if you'll recall, with the police truck that we ordered, and we ordered that police truck over a year ago and it just showed up.
Yeah.
So, and that's just a F-150. So imagine what it's gonna be like for the larger equipment.
Yeah.
We just don't know, and that was gonna be part of my spiel for the capital is we put these numbers in there based on our program staying the same. We're going to have to be mindful of what's happening in the world. And, you know, it may be that we're going to move away, maybe next year we'll have a better idea. Do we move away from saving or trying to borrow, or do we want to save more? I think we have to be agile. I don't think we can say tonight, this is what we're going to do. You know, had we had what we did last year, was it last year, Peg, when we refinanced?
Yes.
The refinance was one of the best things we could do because we are locked into that rate. So I think we were proactive there. We have to use that same being agile in this coming year and the next year.
Yeah, I like that, and I reemphasize that you have made use of your budget committee with a great deal of forethought. And I would love to meet with this committee 6 times a year if the situation.
Well, and we might have to have those
Yeah.
conversations. And I don't think we should be afraid to go back to the well. I mean, that's the thing, is that everybody thinks it's a bad thing if we have to rethink. Pivoting is not bad. You know, people don't like to change course, but I think you have to know when to pivot, you know?
And as long as we have the option of refinancing down the road at a lower rate than we locked in for initially.
Right,
as long as
that's
we have
also
that
a consideration.
flexibility and don't have to pay a penalty to do that.
That's also a consideration. And you have to know the cost of your money too.
Yeah.
Because what's your savings rate? If your interest rates are going up typically in the past, your savings rates have went up. So you would benefit from, you know, so you have to look at that too. And I mean, there's a lot that goes into this, you know, and I specifically updated that, but everybody has to remember that was done after we did the books for you guys back in February. So, and I have not, and you'll probably see, I can email you out a new one of these because I want to adjust the cost. I'd like to explore what I know, like the ambulance thing, like you said, if it's going to take 18 months to get a chassis, we probably should order it sooner rather than later and lock the price in. So CLC was lucky, they got an ambulance, but they were locked into a price from before. So we just have to be flexible. Just like what Abden said about the shellfish truck, is it time, you know, could we get a new one for, and
Or even trade that one in for the
dealerships are
same
doing
amount of,
that.
if it trades in for the same amount of money we paid for it, that's that much off the new truck.
Yeah,
If we upgrade, we're still gaining 3
so,
or
but I
4
just
years.
haven't had a chance to explore any of that.
Give him an S10.
But it's
I
an
don't think he can
interesting.
fit. He's a big
But it's
boy.
an interesting, and I will tell you too, that just so everybody's aware, that shellfish truck is also utilized in the police department for patrol. Sometimes saving people who are stuck on their lawnmower. And
What's she look at you for, John? Not me. Oh, I know what you're talking about.
yeah, they do.
Oh, yeah.
We actually do.
EMS uses it.
EMS
code
uses it,
enforcement.
fire department.
Daryl's used it.
So, and it's the one thing that's nice about that vehicle is that it actually has town of Waldeboro, so people know who's coming when you come down the road. But that's our choice. And I also put out, I don't know if you saw it on your, it was in with your agenda, but the roads that are going to plan to be paved. and the mileage. And again, this is based on but paving for budget 2023, about 5.64 miles of roads.
Did you throw a word in, Billy? Get your road paved up there? What's up with that?
Get a culvert that's going and washing away.
So, and he also budgeted ahead for 2024. So we have an idea of what's coming. Again, that is all going to be dependent on what the price per ton is. And I have to tell you, there's a lot of federal funds for infrastructure. So we want to leverage whatever money we have in the capital fund, because if you look at what the capital balance is, well, I meant for just the surface roads,
Oh, sorry.
you know, we have 446 now. If we put another 219 into it, you know, you're looking at over $600,000. And if we leverage it like they did in the past, back when the last few times I've been through infrastructure bills sitting as a town manager, that could turn into over $1.2 million if the federal government funds the
Does a matching.
infrastructure the way,
Does a matching grant?
which would be huge. Then you might have to pay the premium on the pavement. You might not want to wait. So we just have to be smart about how we do this.
Bob?
Did you say you had a number in here? for some solar array?
No, that's in the big,
In the big one?
in the big one.
I think the contract, I see is 164, 176. I think that's what our agreement. That's cheap. That's about $1.50 kilowatt hour.
I thought though we had to have it appraised.
I mean.
In the contract, I believe that, I believe it had to be appraised and mutually agreed upon. But I can change that number.
What year
I
is
think it's
that?
on.
2020.
I think it's in
That's one of the things.
2025, I think.
So that's not on our.
That's not all right.
It's on the big one.
That's on the big sheet.
The ones over the world.
That's in 20,
Not that one. That one.
yeah, it's in 2020. Actually, it's in 2024. I put it in. for
One I can give extension cord.
Yeah.
I'm just worried that we not miss on that.
Add to it.
That's contract.
Well, again, that's 2024, so.
Oh, that's right.
So we have to get it appraised.
That's right.
And then,
Yeah.
then it's supposed to be profit.
Gotcha. That's right.
And the police equipment reserve, we're sticking with buying a car every year. And that was something we were going to fund every year. So we're on schedule for that.
Did you say you wanted to put 58,000 in for the police in 2024? Because I don't see anything in that category on this.
Right, because I think that had to be, so I think everybody's got to realize, I'll say this again. This came out in February. That's been updated. So I will. I will update this to make it match that. So everybody has to realize that we tried to,
That don't count, but that does.
well, no, that's a plan. So everybody has to realize that's the capital plan moving forward. There's numbers in there that are made up because we have no idea in 2035 what a fire truck's going to have. Just so everybody's really clear on that. That's a tool. That's a planning tool. This is, you know, where we're actually going to be. And it represented where we were in 2023 at that point in time. I can add the 2024 and 2025, but again, we're not there yet.
The guesses.
They're guesses. And things can change. John might say, I can get another 2 years out of that truck before we go. But if we can just get through like this year's budget in the next couple of minutes. So we're at police reserve, there's $46,000. And like I said, that's a car and we'll probably go every year. I'd have to check that because we might be in an off year, but I'm pretty sure it was every year we were planning on that. Public Works equipment. This is, if you see in 2024, there's a wheeler that has to be replaced. And I believe in this year, it's also a wheeler that has to be replaced, but we have reserves. So John needed the $90,000. And the other 20 is for a new Kubota mower that we haven't had that has to be replaced. And I'm going to tell you what truck we're replacing. We're replacing a 2014 Western 6-wheel single axle.
With a wheeler?
Single axle.
No, I think it's
It's
the,
just, they're gonna stick with a
I
single
think
axle.
it's going to stick with the single axle. Yeah. Am I right?
Yep.
Yes.
So that's on a route that doesn't need a wheeler then.
Yeah, we only need 2 wheelers.
Yep.
So that's a single, it says 6-wheel single axle. And I made John explain that so that everybody here would understand what I was talking about.
Right, but there was some places that he said he could use the wheeler, take less trips. So I just asking if this was one of those situations.
Right. And then next year, when you see that 254,000 in the next, that is a 2013 International that'll be replaced for 254,000.
What's the 20,000?
That's the mower for
Oh.
the Kubota mower. Currently, it's a 2008.
Did we buy it way back then?
Yes.
Yeah.
That Kubota?
Mhm.
Wow, it's been that long.
With the snow thrower and everything, yeah.
It's been that long.
Yep.
This don't seem like it's been 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, it's past its life, really.
No
They
kidding.
kept it going good.
Mhm.
Yeah, that thing's paid for itself and then
Oh,
some.
yeah.
And then some. All the time we haven't spent downtown with the wheelers and the loaders and stuff.
So if you turn over your paper now, we're on highway construction reserve and that has 50,000. We put 50,000 in there every year. We also budgeted for surface paving. And again, we use the figure we used last year because there's been a couple of years we haven't paved. So the surface paving program reserve is at 219,390. And then the next one is for transfer station equipment reserve, and that's the loader replacement. And then we have a trailer replacement project, and you'll notice we jumped up to 30,000 on that one. And I will explain why. Our trailer, and Will help me with this. So it is not a live bottom trailer. We don't have the setup for a live bottom trailer. But we use these older trailers that are called,
Trailers.
it's like a compactor trailer.
Compact trailer. Yeah.
They don't really, everybody seems to be going to live bottoms but us. When John has been budgeting for them, he budgeted around $80,000 for each one to be replaced. And now they're like $140,000 to $150,000. So we had one get a little, I would say, I'm going to use the really technical term, wonky. And Public Works has spent, on a big shout out to Blaine Searles, has done a phenomenal job of repairing that trailer, welding, and doing just an absolutely amazing job. So we need to put some more money in there because the one company that we can buy this from, they have increased significantly in price. And we even went through the company that we bought the ladder truck through that has a lot of resources and has a much bigger, like a purchasing co-op, and we could not find a trailer a price better than what we got locally for that trailer. So that's why that's a increase in the trailer replacement project. And then other capital reserves, we've just been putting $5,000 into the unemployment reserve.
On the landfill reserve,
Yes,
we're supposed to get some money back.
we are $185,000. Yes, so let me explain. If you'll see at landfill reserves, you're gonna see a negative amount. On the big sheet, we also have, Peg and I talked about this today, where we have encumbrances. We almost need a due from column or accounts receivable, because we are owed $185,000 from the state of New Jersey, and we're getting about 32,000 a quarter. Oh, the state of Maine, sorry.
I was wondering why they were paying us.
It's been a really long couple of weeks, guys. But we should take it. And I also want to point that out on the shellfish equipment reserve, like their conservation fees and ordinance, they're in the negative, but they're really not, because we're due $22,000 from Maine State DEP for the septic system analysis grant. So there are some grant funds there that we need to put on here to make it easier for you guys to understand.
This is what we have in our reserve.
Not
No,
really,
okay.
because you have to add in that
So we
22,000.
get about 38,000 in our
Yeah,
reserve. Is that after the upweller we just had built? Or is that,
I would say that is not after your upweller you just
Okay.
had built,
so we gotta take about.
right? Because this was,
January.
Yeah,
but
okay.
when was the book put together? In January or February?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I can take about $5,000 off that. then.
Yeah.
Yep, okay. Just curious, so, because we gotta have 5 clams this year to put into the upwellers, so.
No,
Just wanna
you're
make sure.
good. And if anybody wants a time to come in and see the giant chart, you're more than welcome to. Just call me and let me know when you're coming.
Val?
Yeah, Julie, if we did order the ambulance chassis this year, there is money in the capital account.
Well, it depends how much that ambulance chassis is, because right now they have 143,000 in their account.
So if we did order it this year, do we have to pay for it up front, or
I've,
that be in next year's budget? or-
I would assume if they order it, we have to give them something. I would assume. I don't know. Like I said, I sent Derek off.
With the truck, we didn't have to pay for it until.
Yeah.
Recently.
I'm not sure how that works. But I sent Derek off to find out all those intricacies.
So are you concerned that we would need to add money in this year? if we ordered it this year?
I would hope that will cover the cost of a chassis. That what we have in there.
And that's not slated for anything else right now.
Not right now.
Do we get a fairly new one too, is what, correct?
We have a 4-wheel drive. That was the newest one that we bought. And I think we bought that in 2019. Peg, am I right?
So 2, if we get this one, there's 2 that will be fairly new. Folder.
But the problem is that we were scheduled in 24 and 25.
Yeah.
And we
Right. As long as we'll be able
we
to do that.
shouldn't be buying ambulances back to back years. So if we can stretch that out a couple years, that would be great.
Any other questions? No, guess we'll move along.
We've got to approve it.
All right, folks, would somebody on the select board approve? What are we approving? 7. Yep. Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any more discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Okay, the budget committee. We have it on a regular page.
Yes.
Yes.
It's right on the last page.
Yeah. $547,890 in capital.
So moved.
Thank you. Anyone else? Second? More discussion?
On the other public facilities like the Friendship Street Reserve and the Indian Way.
That's just, those are just balances that we carry that other times that the capital budget has funded those. So those are balances left in those accounts.
Sorry, at some point, we can move that 30,000 away from Friendship to make a general fund.
Well, yeah, if there's projects that we know are done.
Yep.
We could do that, and I'm just not sure if that's a vote of the select board or if it's a vote of at town meeting. I would think it would be at town meeting. We haven't done that in the 4 years, almost 5 years I've been here.
In favor?
Aye.
Okay, thanks. There's Jet. Board acceptance.
On to expenditures.
Over to, if we go to page 47 for, it would be other financing uses. And this is the one I kept trying to do before we went over capital. So this would have the transfer station and the capital requests. That represents our share of the transfer station and the capital that was just approved. Minus the transfer.
Because they're separate funds.
Funds.
The general fund is one fund, transfer station is another fund, the capital is another fund. It's Waldeboro's share of the transfer station's fund, and then Waldeboro's share of the capital fund.
Correct, with the transfer station.
So the 6,022,000.
No, it's the 816,566.
Oh, hey, sorry, 860.
Sure. I'm sorry, on 3555 line, it's $521,046. That's our transfer out of the operating budget into the capital reserve.
So that is minus the amount that is utilized in capital for the transfer station because it's separate funds.
Okay, so.
So that's the difference.
Like $26,000.
Correct. And so you have to take that out because it's not the part of the transfer station. And then the other communities that participate in the funding of that, we don't pay that full amount. So that 40, I think it was $40,000 for the transfer station in the capital reserve. That we put in for the trailer and that's, we've got to split that between three towns. So this is just our portion.
Would be
26,156.
Okay. So I'm sorry, in the capital budget we just voted on.
Out of the 40,000, Friendship would owe 5,000 because of the formula that we use. Friendship would be, it's Concord for $5,936, and Cushing would be $7,908, and Waldeboro would be the 26,156.
Okay, and that money would be in our revenue. account, governmental revenues.
On the revenue side of your capital account.
Not yet, because we haven't done revenues yet.
Okay. That'll be on page page 3 of the capital
Correct.
budget. Those are the first line.
Right, that's where you have Friendship and Cushing come in.
Is everyone all set?
Did we do the transfer station budget?
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
I'm really sure.
When John, the night John Daigle was here.
Anybody ready to make a motion? We add up, Bob?
Yeah, I'll make a motion of $860,566 for the capital reserve.
Well, no, it's for all other
Other
finances.
finances.
Other financing
Yeah.
uses.
Is there any more discussion? I'll let you discuss it when you do it, Bob. Val.
Just questioning
Okay.
where the numbers came from. So we get page 47, on 3550, Walbro's cost of the transfer station is $295,520. On the transfer station budget on page 4. and 490. That's total of Walbro and the team pushing it.
No, you had 913,830 in expenses.
But that includes the capital.
Total fund budget. We look at it total by fund, but then we will have to look at it again by town. So the other part of the general fund is the cost to the transfer station and or the capital funds.
The financing uses we're voting on now,
Right.
295, that's Walbro's share. Total operating expenses.
Which is a lot less because remember they were talking about the revenues being increased. Because of the costs that were,
Okay. Trying to see where transfer station budget.
It doesn't, because it's our share.
Okay.
So it's a calculation that we do. And we plug that number into other financing issues. So it's a calculation based on percentage of each town of the expenditures of the transfer station. So our share of the transfer station is 65.39%.
on the floor.
I'll let Val deal with it with the budget committee.
No, but did we?
We
vote?
haven't voted yet.
No, not yet. No, there's a, no, vote.
Oh.
There's a motion on the floor. Is it the select board all set? All those in favor? Now, go ahead, Val. Beat it. Give it to it.
I'm happy.
He's
Okay.
happy.
All right.
We have $816,500. Motion. Discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Aye.
Can I just show now the connection?
Sure,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Okay, on page 5 of the transfer station revenue budget, where it says transfer in, 295, 520,
Oh, okay.
that's the number that matches the other,
All right.
from the
Yeah,
other.
great.
That's what you're looking for, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, that's where it met. I thought,
Good.
I knew I saw it here somewhere.
Thank you, sorry.
What else?
Did they vote?
No, sorry.
They
Sorry.
did? Okay.
Yes, they did. Yes, I get it
So-
written down right here.
01.
Before we go into revenue, I just have one question for the budget committee and the select board. Would you like to establish a fuel surcharge line item in the budget?
Make that motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
And what amount would you like that to be? $15,000?
Is that in case
That's in
cover when the
to
price-
cover if it
if we
goes,
don't have enough.
and if we start getting fuel surcharges. I looked back, you've done it twice that I could find. One time was 10,000 and you spent 12, and another time was 15 and you spent 12. So I figured 15 seems to be the,
Why don't we do 20 just to be on the safe side? Prices are going crazy.
okay.
Now, do we want to take that out of,
We're not taking it out of anything.
well, I'm just, we had talked about if the union negotiations with the public
Right.
works.
We're not done yet,
Right.
technically.
We can adjust that after.
Well, we can't adjust it.
It's probably just at the motion stage, put it on the warrant kind of thing. When we have the public hearing, we could.
No, because that warrant is already gonna be, by the time we have the pub, it'll be printed.
So this is really our last chance.
This is your last best chance. So my theory would be leave what's in public works for their, but police, EMS, fire, God forbid, we need more fuel oil. That way it's already in the budget. So I would feel,
My thought was to, if we were to go that route, to use like the select board department. Once we got to that max point with the other sub expenses in those departments,
So we'd increase the select board budget by, say,
whatever
15 or
that amount.
20,000
That was just a
as
suggestion,
emergency
just
fuel
because it's
budget.
neutral and
Yeah,
then we
no,
go
you're right,
across
and then it can
all
delay
of the
whatever.
departments if we ended up needing it.
That makes sense.
we also take the risk of somebody thinking,
Yeah, I know.
voting it down. I think it should be under fuels, fuel surcharge.
With select board discretion to.
Fuel-
to allocate it.
You keep saying
Well,
surcharge, how about a reserve?
full fuel reserve, I like something like that.
Because surcharge, I'm thinking of,
Yeah,
are we getting
We are
shipments
getting,
here and we're getting the fuel surcharge that much?
so we are actually getting notification that there will be a fuel surcharge on certain
Oh,
things.
certain deliveries, yes.
Certain
Truck-
deliveries
Trucking
and things,
companies
yeah.
always do it.
But I think we should put, yeah, it should say something about fuel expenditure or something. We'll come up with the appropriate name. I just need an appropriate amount.
15,000.
I won't say what I'm thinking.
Behave yourself over there. You're new. You gotta be good. At least 1 year. All right, so there's a motion on the floor.
Well,
The motion was for an additional $20,000 appropriation.
So I feel that maybe that might be too much because we have that cushion in Public Works too. So I think the 15 might be, it's up to you. Go for 20. I'm good. He wants 20.
Yeah, I try to have some more power in the gun, just to. If it gets watered down, I can't remember it much.
Do I hear a second?
I do 20,000.
Any more discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Select board. Put extra $20,000.
Fuel reserve.
Fuel reserve. I like that. Fuel reserve.
Yep.
And so this, we would be adding another warrant line item. And that would increase the full total here
Correct.
by $20,000. So do we have a motion?
So moved.
For 20,000?
Okay, second.
Discussion.
I would think that the people voting in it are gonna see what's going on in the world these days, and they're gonna understand why we put that in there. Just in case.
No.
One would hope.
One would hope.
Any other questions? All those in favor?
I,
What else would you like to do?
So do you want to do revenue tonight and this could potentially be our last meeting? Or do you want to have another meeting? What's everybody's appetite for getting it?
What's everybody want to do?
Finish it up.
I'd finish it up. Just this one page.
You never know what tomorrow's gonna bring.
Okay.
One page.
So I want to chat with you a little bit about revenues. I mean, we went over this in the beginning. Peg and I went through it. I think we were conservative about our increases. We start on page 48. We are anticipating the second portion of our ARPA funds. And we will, so there are some rules around that, and it should go to the voters. That's how we were able to use our ARPA funds this last year, as we anticipated them and the voters voted on it. So I would put those in there, and essentially that will be earmarked for, even though it doesn't show it in this budget, towards the EMS and public safety increases. So a portion of those increases will be offset by that ARPA funding. Bear in mind, we will not have that next year. So that's on page 48. The revenue that you see on page 49 for the town manager revenue is a portion of the salary for the town manager that the water department reimburses at 5% of the total salary. Page 51 is where you get into some interesting things. The automobile excise taxes are actual in 2021 was 1,112,623. And we are at 656,000 as of the printing of this budget book. We were at 656,000. We felt 900,000 was reasonable to anticipate. Same thing with the rest of watercraft excise tax. We haven't gotten into voting season quite yet. We also haven't finished with the tax lien season. Development permits, we have already exceeded what we anticipated last year. Again, we have another solar farm coming on. Those are one-shot deals. They give us a nice cash infusion. We don't want to plan for them because you're not going to have a solar farm come online every year. If you turn to page 52, that is where we'll see municipal revenue sharing.
That's gonna be significantly,
So in 2022, we anticipated 622,500. Since the printing of this report, I looked at it today. And we've already surpassed that number. So we are well on our way to exceed municipal revenue sharing. We got the new numbers for that. We anticipated 637,290. I will be honest with you, the new projection for us that the state put out is $986,967.
that much, more. So 350,000.
986,967,
Close to $350,000 more.
correct. Obviously, we're going to change that $637,290.
So that'll help offset.
That'll help. So, but again, I would not anticipate that full amount. I have a huge issue anticipating that full amount.
What number would you anticipate?
I'd go at least $100,000 under.
So
Under what they projected. So
850 always sounds nice to me, but it's
That'll
It's
still
a
give us-
gamble.
Still give us over $200,000 extra to play with. To be safe.
We're still over that LDI count.
we're going to
LD1,
be, well, we're not going to be able to get under LD1.
even at 986, we're not gonna be able to get up.
You had an $800,000 increase. And to be honest with you, it doesn't make sense to even try because next year we've built now a baseline into this budget that's not going to change. So what we're going to need to do is actually do an actual, what is called an increase, a permanent increase to our tax levy limit. We don't really have a choice with that because exceeding it is just for 1 year for an emergency, but this isn't just a 1 year thing. And then you'd have to cut next year to get back under LD1. So I think we have to, so our baseline will now become what this budget was. So next year, when we look at the levy, it'll be based on this is our base year, which makes sense because these adjustments had to be made. Hey, do you have the LD1 calculation?
So we're adding another $212,710 to our revenue.
I don't know what you're going to do. You tell me what you're going to do.
Well, the increase,
Hey, do you have a different take on it?
On what?
On how much we should increase it?
No, that was my first gut, was 100,000 under what they would be at.
That's still close to 343,000 over, even at 100,000 under.
I'm going off the 637,290 that's in the budget.
Yep.
And the suggestion was that we revise that up to 850.
Okay, you want to go to 850? Well, she's saying 100,000 below.
No, I was saying 880. but
Right,
850 is
right.
close enough.
So that's a difference of 212,710. Add that to the bottom line, we get 1,893,700. If my math is right.
Peg can do it right on the,
Double check.
yeah.
Yeah. And then summary section now.
So we're just saying put 850,000 in the,
Instead of the 637.
Yeah,
well, in revenue sharing, we go to 850,000.
I was gonna give you the total.
Oh, okay.
Yep. The new total.
The new total for revenues is
$3,520,966.
Say that again.
3,000,000.
Yep.
520,966.
Page 65.
Still over the LD. I know we have to talk about it, but I'll tell you that. Still be, well, looks like 193,000.
How much?
193,824.
That's over LD1.
So again, I don't think that this is something we can cut our way out of because we've made baseline adjustments. So again, we can't exceed the budget. I mean, we could say this was an extraordinary year. We could exceed the tax levy limit, but the problem with that is next year, you're not gonna, so we have to establish the new norm, unfortunately. So there would be an actual question on the warrant that would allow for that to happen. And I don't think, I mean, I would recommend you're gonna have to do the increase. And that would actually appear on the warrant.
So we need to, in terms of the budget, we need to change two numbers that I believe. First one we have to change is the municipal revenue sharing. Change that to 850,000.
Right.
The second one we have to change is the one at the very end. And that goes up to 3,520,967. You're adding 212,710 to each of those two amounts. That makes sense. I came out with your number.
Yes, but also, what about the fuel reserve? Where's that gonna be?
That's gonna be another 20,000.
Isn't that an expensive?
That's
Yeah,
expensive.
that would be expensive.
Expense.
No, I
But
know.
it's still money that's gotta be raised.
Yeah, it's not in here yet. It's just been discussed.
In the expenses? For right now, I put it in select board. Well, I would just put it for calculation purposes, we'll make up our own line item for it on the warrant, but for calculation purposes, put it in, if you want, put it in select board miscellaneous great ideas.
Yeah.
What are you giggling about?
It's not gonna get voted.
They have a contingent line.
That's good.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Yeah, that's what it is. Get here.
And just so you're aware, when we do the warrant, I think we're gonna put some
Explanations.
Really?
explanatory statements on them so that people know why. I think it's important people understand what happened. Well, I'm sure some people will.
So we all set with these revenue?
Mhm.
That bottom revenue line, to adding another 20,000 to that change.
Do we add another 20,000 to that?
3,549,66.
So we don't have to change the revenue.
No,
Yeah, it's the expense, Bob.
It's an expense.
No, yeah, you're right.
you gotta balance your budget.
No, you do that with taxes. You don't do it with revenue unless you want to take from surplus.
General fund balances with the calculation after we get all our expenses done.
Okay, that works.
The other three are balanced budgets.
Yep.
So,
I mean, if you wanted to add revenue to cover that, you could take it out of the fund balance.
What's with the homestead? Now, how does that work? It says it's not budgeted revenue.
It's not budgeted
But-
revenue because it comes in after the fact.
Yeah, okay.
Investment income. We've seen a decline in our investment income, so
Yeah.
we're being very conservative about that.
We did good in 2021.
We did good.
2022, not so
Did
good.
great for Over a year.
Yeah.
but
Right,
The interest rates are not.
Tank.
right.
Tank.
And I went over, when we had a EMS, we ran over their revenue. The police services on page 56, that represents the contribution of the school for the school resource officer. Again, the shellfish licenses on 57, that's all supported through licensing fees.
Not taxpayer dollars,
Not
just so
taxpayer
everybody
dollars.
knows.
We anticipate revenue from general assistance because the state reimburses us 70% of all GA expenses. And again, on page 63, you'll see our budget for our planning and code revenue has increased, but we haven't really increased it. Again, that's because I'm afraid we've got American Unagi coming up who took out permit fees, and we had the 2 solar farms. So I don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves thinking that we're going to always generate this kind of fee. And we also don't know when building is going to stop if it does, so. And then, and we also did lose revenue there. Because we no longer share our code enforcement officer. He is full-time with us now, so. And that's pretty much the revenue.
We're still set at 3,520,966. Okay,
Hold on, let me check.
Just check.
I didn't know if you wanted to have any other changes, but it'd be nice if you guys left with it. Yeah, 3,520,966.
okay. The select board ready? Is there a motion?
Yep, I moved 3,529,966.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any more discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Select board has not $1,520,960 for revenue total.
So move.
Second.
Right? Aye.
So the last thing that we have to discuss is there'll be one more thing that will appear on the warrant, and this we've been waiting for because of the adjustments in EMS salaries during this budget cycle has to be approved. Even though it was a special, it was an emergency issue, it still has to be approved by the voters. So what we have to do is approve an amount for this current budget cycle in June that accounts for an expenditure and a revenue.
All right, talking about the salaries, not the retirement.
Well, we're talking about their budget in general is going to be over budget.
And we can't cover that out of the general fund.
Well, you can, but we've got revenue coming in from towns that
Cover
have our
that.
service. So why would we want to take it?
You're right.
We're not going to want to take it from fund balance. In my opinion, I would advise against that.
I think you're right.
Every once in a while, a blind squirrel gets a nut. So what so the estimate for total over would be $376,380, which we were expecting. It's actually a little less than what we had talked about. But what we actually need is $204,471 And if you take, and that's just whatever they'll have left in those line items for salaries and wages. In the end, we're going to need we're going to anticipate revenue from the other communities which we serve. And we're probably going to need about $75,471. That's what it comes down to
And that's for
This year.
for this year. That's what it's going to come down to is $75,471.
Julie, do you want to do this even before we've had our final discussions with?
Friendship.
Well,
Oh,
I want you guys to be aware we have to do it. I think we have to be aware that we have to do it. That's where we're at.
So we need to hold another budget committee when we finalize that number.
Well, I think what you could do is you could authorize up to a certain number and then anything less. It's the way I've read it, and I'm confirming this with our auditor, is that we can say up to an amount.
So the motion would be for the voters. To $75,000.
Well, I would say to be safe, $158,597.
Where did that come from?
I'm just saying that number, so that number represents what we would need if we were not resolved prior to June 17th
With both,
with both communities, correct?
sorry, 158,
158,597.
597. So the motion would be to authorize up to 158,597
In
in
expenditures,
expenditures for EMS.
correct, correct.
That's
In
without,
anticipation of overspending the 2022.
Correct. And revenue up to 204,471. 204,471.
Make that a separate motion.
I think you can do them both at the same time. And it's up to, it doesn't mean we're going to spend it, and I will go over with the select board, and we can have another budget committee select board meeting that night, April 12th,
Or the 14th.
or we could do we could do a special, but I don't, we're not gonna go over those numbers.
I feel more comfortable having a meeting on the 14th with everybody here when we know what the numbers are.
But I'm not gonna know any better, probably. That's what I'm saying, is I may not know. So I would like a worst case scenario. That's my worst case scenario for revenue and my worst case for expenses. But they can't go above those numbers. Because I think those numbers will come down. I just don't. I don't want to count chickens before they hatch and run around.
So the motion is to amend the fiscal year 2022 budget emergency services to show an additional $158,597 in expenses and an additional $204,471 in revenues. In light of ongoing conversations with our neighbors.
Correct.
Jefferson and Friendship.
Well, it'll be, yeah, it'll be. And
Or
we'll,
does that include Warren as well?
I'm including that revenue. We don't have to specify where that revenue comes from. Again, it just has to be
Okay,
EMS
I got you.
revenue, EMS expenditures.
So that's the motion.
Yep.
Does that cover it?
Does it?
Well, but He's
Yeah.
got a question.
Well,
so
I was gonna
does
get a
Rich.
second first.
Okay.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Val?
So I'm confused. I thought we had a net expense of 75,400. But the revenue is up.
So our worst case scenario with expenses, worst case is 150, 158, 597.
Right. I get that. And revenue.
And the revenue, so the best case scenario for revenue would be we'd only need an additional 75,471.
But if revenue is up to 204,000, that's more than 8,000, so. I don't see where the 75,000.
That's if everybody does everything that they're obligated to do.
She's adding apples and oranges.
Okay. So
We're
we see a
still-
net 50,000 or 40,000, $46,000 net revenue there with those two numbers. Am I looking at it wrong? 204,000 revenue.
But we might have to make up additional revenue.
Okay.
So
we
I
only
have to-
get 75,000 revenue. And that was with a net expense of 75.
I'm counting on the worst thing that could potentially happen.
Okay,
I don't think it will, but I have to be able to raise money in our budget if I don't have money coming out of another budget from another.
so the revenue and expense numbers are not tied together.
No.
in any particular.
I can't tie them neatly in a bow at this
Yep,
point.
okay.
Negotiation.
Eventually, if they have their own fund, it'll be cleaner, hopefully. Except they would get added to that other piece to be able to work between funds. EMS is part of the general fund, only on the expense side. Revenue count, but it's set up
A separate-
differently.
Right, so we had a meeting on Monday night and went through everything. And I think we got the point across that you can't just take expenses minus revenue minus expenses and come up with a number. You have to include the liability. So I think I just want to make sure that we're covered and that we're not getting hit and for using, I want to give us the option if we have to make up the revenue. That's why the revenue number is higher than the expenditure number.
Any more discussion? Sandy?
Well, I'm pretty sure
I'm
what we
still-
are.
So have you projected on the budget what it cost us without the other towns? You have.
Even if you had no other town participating, it would be $1.4 million.
Okay, is it projected in here? I didn't go through the whole thing, or is it, you don't anticipate?
So if we did not have other towns to offset, the expenditures would still be $1.4 million.
And if the way we've figured this out is if we don't have those towns, we have transfers, correct?
Make it up with transfers.
Yes.
Pick
you
up
would
transfers to offset that.
So the revenue numbers would change, but that loss in revenue could potentially be
Right.
made up with transfers.
Yep.
My only issue is
No
anticipating.
guarantee.
there's-
So that's why I'm asking,
Yeah,
right,
yeah.
projected without the guarantee.
Neither one of them are guaranteed
No,
right
well-
now, but
Yeah.
And the revenue numbers reflected what we thought at the time was reasonable, and the projection numbers include charging for mutual aid that is not really mutual aid, that are actually calls for service. So we're charging that differently because it's really not mutual aid. An increase in paramedic, the fly car with the paramedic intercepts. And it does include the amount that we were going to bill Friendship and Jefferson, but only for the amount we billed them for this year, because again, we've gotta work on what next year's to be, yeah.
Any more discussion? Select board, all those in favor? Those. All yours, Val, if you want to explain it.
So we
Good
are
luck.
voting on 204,471 revenue.
Revenue.
158,597. Up to these figures for revenue and expense.
And just so you guys know, if anything changes and we can redo these numbers prior to when we have to get the ballot to the printer, you will be called on to come back, reconvene and vote.
Procedurally, if we're voting on a figure up to that, and we approve that, then the select board, for the purposes of the warrant article,
That is my understanding. I don't know that we've ever done it that way, but if anybody's more comfortable, but that's why I said up to, that's the worst case.
But I'm just saying procedurally, do we have to all meet to just adjust the number?
I don't think
It all depends if
so,
you guys want to.
but if
I mean,
you want
it's-
to,
If you guys want, willing to come back, or if it's,
Only.
Bob's retired now. He needs people to talk to.
It wasn't just us that agreed on it. It was.
Okay, so,
We get,
it's his cover.
so did we get a motion?
not yet.
Okay, do we have a motion?
So moved.
Thanks.
Second.
Don? Okay. Any further discussion, clarification, obfuscation? Shall we vote? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, 0-1.
So are we coming back?
Vote on
It's,
it.
it's whatever you guys want to do. If you want to come back or you don't, I think you should probably make that decision tonight. Then we can go from there.
Was there a couple of other adjustments you said that haven't come in yet, but the contract something to do? So
Well, she's got worst case scenario on the contract, so.
Yeah, I got the worst case. That's the, what you just voted on is worst case. I have a
Even
feeling it'll
public
be
work,
even
public
better.
works and everything was worst case scenario.
Yeah.
To revise.
She is on top of things.
Did you just do that?
it is.
Yes, you shall see, Val.
It's so tiny to see on the laptop though. Makes me feel minor than usual.
Well, that's all we have then for budget.
It's been an awesome worksheet, Peg. Thank you.
Yeah, like that.
Yes, very much so.
It's the one I use, so I decided to share it.
I know I've said this before, but I gotta tell you guys are great because, you know, I don't see any other towns around here with a budget committee as active as you guys are that come at a moment's notice and are so involved in a lot of these decisions. And I just think that speaks volumes to the people who serve and do the hard work.
I just wanna thank Julie and Peg. I mean, I've been here and I've seen it at its worst, and you two have started to bring things back to the front since both of you have been.
Thank you, Bill.
Amen.
You were a big part of that.
If you guys have any questions or want to see things differently, you can always send me an email, because I actually.
Oh, I
write-
love emails.
I write notes.
So we've heard, so we've heard.
What we've seen today, or when you guys talk about stuff, I write notes, like the glossary was one of them, like, you know, like things like that that might help. for the next year.
And if you want to stay on the budget committee and your term expires, you need to fill out papers and
Next year it's over.
Yes, John.
And
your paper.
get your signatures.
Go in and visit Pam for your papers, please. The pressure is on.
I took it out, but I didn't get it off.
Do you have a motion to adjourn so we can?
Motion to
Budget
adjourn,
committee.
Mr. Chairman.
Second,
Is there, yeah, you got,
I wanna
we
do
need to
more.
discuss it. All those in favor of adjournment? Okay, thank you, John and Tom.
the select board, do we have any other issues to deal with tonight, Julie? As a select board? We got them pretty well cleared up.
You're done, you're not
Wait a
coming
minute,
back?
I think we did, and I
No,
don't
no, I gotta
remember
come
what
back
it
one more
was.
time.
Oh.
Thanks
Oh,
to
I
Bob
know what it
Butler.
is, but it can be, yeah, yes, I know what it is, but it's nothing, it's not official business.
Okay,
That's what it is.
okay. There's
Nothing
somebody,
official.
somebody on the select board like to make a motion to adjourn?
Nothing official.
Is there a second? Is there a, all in favor?
Yeah, that's right.
Absolutely
favor?
nothing official.
You may sign that, Val?
Yeah.
Hold on a minute. Here I go.
Keep you right
If I
here.
can sign yours.
I don't have one.
Yeah, John's afraid, John or Bill's afraid they're gonna get